My first experience doing mission work was when Terryl and I were dating, and she was pursued by many other guys, of course, which I was concerned about.
Well, a little bit, not terribly. I was just friendly, very friendly.
And so she invited me to go to Mexico. So I went for totally the wrong reasons.
Told him to get out of himself and stop being so selfish and listen to what God wanted to teach him. He preached, and I knew he was a good teacher, but I had never heard him get up and really share from the Word. He came down out of there and he goes, I want to spend my life here.
From that day forward, I thought, I'm called to Mexico. I'm supposed to come to Mexicali. I'm supposed to live here. I'm going to marry Terryl. We're going to come here. This is where we're going to live. It's perfect. I actually had the nerve to sit down with Terrell's dad and tell him that I was going to marry his daughter and we were going to move to Mexico and be missionaries. Instead, I ended up being invited to share at El Dorado Park Community Church in Long Beach, right on the edge of the city of Hawaiian Gardens.
The city of Hawaiian Gardens and the church had a big fence.
So we're gonna move our mission trip to our backyard. It makes perfect sense. And it's like Mexico is in our backyard. Why wouldn't we do this?
I really knew very little about the city. I didn't know much about it. I just knew it was a place a lot of people said you don't want to go hang out in.
And so we decided that we would use a bunch of junior high schoolers and high schoolers to put on a program for the city.
We did a week-long resurrection celebration, but through resurrection celebration, we met a whole bunch of kids from the city, but especially two little kids.
Michael and Rachel, they latched on to both Terryl and I, and they followed us around everywhere. I was intrigued by them, and I fell in love with them, really, and Terryl fell in love with them.
When the program was over, we had these big gates, and you had to close them, and they're walking out the gate, and they go, what do we do now?
And that hit me like a heavy weight, and I just thought, I don't know. I didn't say that. But that's what I said in my heart. I don't know where you go.
I realized that, by doing a week-long program, you were opening up yourself to these kids' lives. They wouldn't let us go. They said, when are you picking us up again? Are you going to come? We want you to meet our mom. And we were outside of the city, and that time we went in.
My eyes were opened. We did start taking the kids to church every Sunday. And then we found out that there was a lot of abuse in the home. We found out that there was a lot of alcoholism in the home. We found out that there was men in and out of the home constantly. The kids were very neglected. We ended up going to a missions concert together after the late, great Keith Green passed away, talking about this ship called the Anastasis that sailed to different ports and did mission work.
And they said, who is willing to commit to mission, stand up, and we both stood up.
She wants to be in missions. This is my wife. This is going to be my wife, and we decided. As a matter of fact, on the way home, I actually kind of gave her a business proposition. It's kind of not very romantic at all, But I said, hey, why don't we go see if we can get on that ship and go through their discipleship training program on board the Anastasis? Wouldn't that be awesome? If God opens that up, would you marry me? So we had I guess a kind of a shotgun wedding. It was formal and everything, but it was quick. We planned it in 6 weeks, and in 6 weeks we were married, and then we were on the ship. But for Terryl, it was very hard. We're going to be leaving Michael and Rachel. For her, it was like she was leaving her children.
I loved Guatemala. I loved it there, but it still wasn't my calling.
We felt like we were in our element. It was like being in Hawaiian Gardens again. It stirred up emotions in me again for Michael and Rachel and the people that we worked with in Hawaiian Gardens, and I know it did for her as well. Terryl said, I think we're supposed to go back to Hawaiian Gardens and start a ministry there.
We moved into Hawaiian Gardens, and I was so excited. I just felt like this was where I was supposed to be, and Barry was a little more nervous, I think, because he knew he had to take care of me. Like I was, his wife, and he wanted to make sure I was okay. And the very first night we're laying there, and all of a sudden our window lit up, our whole bedroom lit up, and there was a helicopter flying over our house.
Our house was humming all the time. We always had kids at our house, in our yard, doing club programs. But it was Michael and Rachel really that named the Way Out Ministries. I had several names, and I was talking to Michael and Rachel about it, and I said, well, what do you think would be a good name for a ministry that we could start here in Hawaiian Gardens? And I said, The Way Out. And he said, The Way Out, that's the one, for sure. And I said, well, how come? And he said, because we need to get out of here.
Through them, I fell in love with the city. And I don't think I might have done that if I didn't fall in love with those two.
And I said, but even more important than that, even if you're here, if you have Jesus, then is that enough? And we agreed that Jesus is the way out. What we thought was just going to be here in Hawaiian Gardens in 1 square mile, 22,000 people, is now gone internationally.
It's about people. It's about a creator God who changed us and has come into our lives, and us reaching out to a world that needs him, and one person at a time.